Hello everyone, this is Raj Sengotwil. I'm a data science and machine learning practitioner. In this presentation, we're going to look at descriptive data analysis done on Indian Premier League games played at one of the iconic stadiums in India, Wankhede Stadium, Mumbai. This is not an expert cricket analysis video, rather I've applied data science and visualization techniques to the past data in order to find interesting insights. Let's get started. Wankhede Stadium is the home ground of five-time IPL champions Mumbai Indians. It has hosted 104 games. The last IPL game was on March 2022. The last time Mumbai Indians played there was on 21st May 2022, in which Mumbai won. Okay, let's look at the team performance at Wankhede Stadium. Apart from the RPS and Kochi, who have 100% win record, and those two teams are not around in IPL anymore, so let's leave those out. Let's look at the other teams. Gujarat Titans, who were the last year IPL champions, have a good winning record here. They have won 75% of the games, that is 3 out of 4. Let's look at the home team, which is Mumbai Indians. So they do have 60% win rate, which is pretty good. So they won 43 out of 71 games. So apart from Mumbai Indians, so Rajasthan Royals have a good win percentage. So does the other two teams, RCB and LSG. So all of these teams have 50% win rates. Although LSG has played only 4 games because it's a new team that they started playing from last year. Gujarat Lions, so the team is not there in IPL anymore, so let's leave that. The other teams have less than 50% win rate here in Wankhede Stadium. So CSK have actually played more games from the visiting team side. In fact, if you look at all the visiting teams other than Mumbai Indians, so CSK have played the more games there, but they have a win percentage which is less than 50% at 47.83%. Punjab Kings have like 44%, and then if you look at the bottom 4 teams, their win percentage at Wankhede is not so good. Delhi Capital, PWA is the Pune Warriors India team. That team is not there anymore in IPL. If you look at Delhi Capitals, SRH and KKR, they're not doing well. They have not done well in past at Wankhede, and KKR has the lowest win percentage of 26%. They have only won 4 games out of 15 games that they have played there. Okay, we're going to look at the toss. As you all know, toss is an important thing that decides who has to do what in cricket games. So, if you look at it, interestingly, 72% of the time, team winning toss decides to bowl first. Only 27% of the time, team decides to bat. That's a significant percentage in terms of like the decision after toss. Okay, does toss affect the results, or did toss affect the past results? As we expect, winning the toss is somewhat going to be influential because most of the time team winning the toss they decide to bowl first. But is that good enough? So as we expect, you still have a cricket game to play, and you have to actually execute the plans well, right? So yeah, so toss did not affect the result. So only 51%, slightly 1% above the halfway mark, team winning the toss is going on to actually win the game, right? And that's very negligible. So it's still a 50-50. Did team bowling first win? No. So team bowling first, only you have won 45% of the time. That is interesting. If you look at it, team winning the toss decides to bowl first 72% of the time. That's pretty huge, right? But then the teams that are bowling first, they are winning only 44% of the time. So there is a huge inclination to bowl, but then that alone is not helping the team to actually win. All right. Toss and results. Okay, team winning the toss, batting first. Apparently, is not doing good. The team winning the toss, bowling first. Sorry, has a good chance of winning. All right. Now let's look at the batting record. So the next few slides, we're going to actually look at the number of runs scored. Obviously, Mumbai Indians. Um, it's a home ground for them. So the overall run scored chart, there's no surprise that it's all Mumbai Indians occupying. So Rohit Sharma is an outstanding record. Then next is Kieran Pollard. Then Ambati Rayudu, who now plays in Chennai Super Kings, has an outstanding record as well. And the man himself, Sachin Tendulkar, has scored like 726 runs. And the only members from three other teams figuring in the top 10 overall score. So Virat Kohli is at number 5, Sanju Samson and Josh Butler. So Rajasthan team members are doing good. And then we have Suresh Raina, Mr. IPL, figuring in the list as well, followed by Hardik Pandya and Surya Kumar Yadav. Okay, if we look at the visiting teams, leaving aside the home team, and then look at the from the visiting teams, who are the top 10 run getters. And obviously Virat Kohli we saw, Sanjay Samson and Josh Butler, Suresh Raina, they're the top 4 run getters, followed by Faf, Pant and MS Dhoni, and then we have ABD, Sean Marsh and Ravindra Jadeja. Interestingly, we have 2 batsmen from Rajasthan Royals, 2 from Royal Challengers Bangalore, and then 4 from CSK team in the top 10. All right. So let's look at the top 10 individual scores. If you look at it, it's very interesting that the top 10, there are a lot of, in fact, centuries. And if I list all the top 10 individual scores, all of them are centuries. That's outstanding record here in Wankhede. It's a run fest. So ABD has the highest score of 133. Virendra Sehwag 122, and you can read it. I'm not going to read everything, but yeah, the interesting fact here is like all the top 10 individual scores are above 100. KL Rahul has 200s here, one for Punjab Kings, the other one for LSG last year. All right. So individual scores from the visiting teams, and of course we have several hundreds here as well, because these hundreds figuring in the overall score as well. And as you could see, the top 10, we can certainly say that it's a batsman friendly stadium or ground. Okay. I mentioned that it is run fast and it aids batsmen. That actually shows up here also. So this box plot actually shows the interquartile range for each of the batting innings across teams. And if you look at it, the grey line here is the median batting strike rate across the games, or across the batsmen who have played here in Wankhede. And all the teams including all the way up to LSG. So all these teams have strike rate. Their median strike rate, their team's median strike rate is above the overall median strike rate, and no wonder that these teams are doing well in Wankhede. And then towards the right side, we have these teams who do not have that great win percentage, and obviously because their median strike rate, the team median strike rate is below the overall median strike rate. So that means like the 15th percentile when it comes to the team's batting strike rate is less than the 15th percentile of the overall strike rate. This is the individual scores, scatter plot of the individual scores. On the x-axis we see the balls faced, on the y-axis the runs scored, and this kind of like gives a nice visualization of which team is actually scoring higher. And if you see, there are some good scores by CSK here, and obviously Mumbai will have a lot of scores. It's a home ground for them, they played more games. And KKR, we don't see some great performances. We see quite a good performances here for RCB, and that's why they have 50% win record. So does Rajasthan Royals here, but if you look at in the contrast, SRH and KKR, who are the bottom two teams in terms of win percentage, do not have great individual performances. All right. Okay, so if we put Mumbai Indians versus rest of the team and draw a scatter plot of individual scores, what we see interesting is like as batsmen tend to play longer innings, like because the x-axis is number of balls faced, this is number of runs scored. All the way here there is no pattern, but if you look at when batsmen tend to play more than 40 balls, the scoring rate among other teams kind of like takes off as opposed to how Mumbai Indians play. It's kind of Mumbai Indians, from this data, they don't accelerate towards the end as much as like the other team batsmen do, and that's what this graph does. So it shows basically. So the gray line, which is basically takes off here, that means the other team's batsmen, they tend to actually score at a higher rate than the Mumbai Indians batsmen, because the blue line here, it's kind of flat. That's the interesting fact from this plot. Okay, now let's look at batting records. So number of fours hit. So obviously Rohit Sharma has hit extraordinary number of fours, 167. And then Sachin Tendulkar has 94, and then you could see the other batsmen. There are only three batsmen from other teams in the overall number of fours scored. And then this on the right side you would see the visiting teams, like who has actually scored more fours on the visiting team side. And Shikhar Dhawan, actually, if I put these two together, actually he would basically figure in the top 10 as well, because here we have records from two different teams. Like when Shikhar Dhawan played for DC, he scored 28. When he played for SRH, he scored 26. So obviously, because he played for two different teams, the chart actually represents two different records. But if we put these things together, and he's going to actually figure here in the top 10 overall boundary getters. Okay, when it comes to hitting sixes, the man himself, Kieron Pollard, who has hit 85 sixes in Wankhede, and then Rohit Sharma, 73. The interesting fact here is, other than these two, everybody else actually hit only less than, I would say, 40 or even somewhere around 30. So that shows the hitting power of these two, because there's a huge difference between the top two and then the other members here. And this chart here on the right hand side shows the number of six hit by visiting team members. All right. And the interesting thing that I want to highlight here is I don't see MS Dhoni figuring here in this chart. That is kind of interesting. All right, let's move on. So this next few slides, we're going to actually look at the top run getters per over because we have the innings from consists of like 20 overs. In each over, who's going higher runs or how many runs that each batsman is scoring. So of course it is dominated by Mumbai Indians batsmen because we are talking about the runs scored overall. So we have the openers here who are dominating. Sachin Tendulkar has scored actually 93. It is quite interesting that Sachin stopped playing quite some time ago, and so far in sixth over he still has a record of scoring 93 runs facing 58 balls. That is interesting. So nobody has actually surpassed this record. And then we have Rohit Sharma everywhere. And towards the death, we have Kiran Pollard scoring most of the runs at a very good rate as well. And then we have Hardik Pandya in the death overs as well. Okay, so this is runs per over among away teams. And you could actually see, so Faf has been doing well, so does Joss and Joss Butler and Sanju Samson. Andre Russell is doing good, or has done good. And we have Suresh Raina, who has done well, Virat Kohli, and then MS Dhoni, who has done better here towards the death. And then if you look at it, the interesting fact here, Ravindra Jadeja from CSK has scored 52 runs in 16 balls that he has faced in 20th over. That is quite outstanding. Alright, now let's look at the bowling records. This is like number of wickets taken overall. And no surprise, it's again dominated by all Mumbai Indian bowlers except Dwayne Bravo, who has 21. And if you look at the topmost, so Lasith Malinga, the Slinga Malinga from Mumbai Indians have 68 wickets, and everybody else have less than 50 wickets. That's quite outstanding performance here by Malinga. And if I look at the visiting teams, obviously Dwayne Bravo has an outstanding record of taking 21 wickets, and you could actually see the rest of the figures. And what is interesting is like Delhi Capitals. I don't see any bowlers from Delhi Capitals in this chart. So does Punjab Kings. So that kind of like explains that directly would correlate to the win percentage of those teams anyway. Alright, this is the next few slides. We're going to actually look at bowling record overall, like in numbers. So the numbers that are important is number of games bowled and with a median economy of 6.7 in this case by Malinga, and how many wickets he has taken. So 6.75 median economy is quite outstanding. And as you could see, Bumrah has 7.7, Harbhajan Singh has 6.7 and taken 49 wickets. And then Bravo has 8.6 economy and has played like 16 games. Alright, this figure here shows the distribution of the economy in and if you look at it, Jasprit Bumrah has a nice bell curve, so he's more predictable, and so does Lasith Malinga as well. Harbhajan Singh, however, has few bowling economy rates which are like exceptions. Maybe he had like few off days. And if you look at Kieran Pollard, the distribution is certainly it's a multi-model. So does like Hardik Pandya. So that these kind of figures explain that inconsistent performances in terms of bowling. Meaning, some games they do better, some games they end up like leaking runs, etc. But if I look at a curve like this, that's the perfect distribution. So that means like we would have like more predictable performances. All right. So this is the bowling record of visiting teams, and as you could see, we have Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, which have outstanding economy rate of 6.5. That's quite good. So does Umesh Yadav. And rest of the visiting team members. And I forgot to mention Sunil Narayan has 5.5 economy rate and has taken 13 wickets. That's quite outstanding. I'm going to actually upload the static version of this presentation. I will provide the link in the description so that if you want to download and go through all these numbers in detail, you can do that. Alright, so this is wickets per over, home team. So in over from 1 to 20, who's taking how many wickets. So that's what this table is about. And here the runs distribution. So this is zeros, ones, twos, threes, up to 6 as well. So yeah, as expected, so Malinga is doing well because he bowls in the power play. And we have Deepak Chahar from CSK doing good in 5th over, and then only one bowler, which is only one spinner rather, Harbhajan Singh doing better inside the power play. That is quite interesting. And then Harbhajan all the way, we have Hardik Pandya as well. In the second half, from the 11th to 20th over, so we have Harbhajan, Jadeja is doing good from CSK, and then we have the Mumbai Indians bowlers. And if you look at the death bowling, it's Malinga and Bumrah who has done the most of the damage in terms of taking wickets. And if you look at 19th over, it's quite outstanding. Malinga has actually picked 19 wickets, and he has bowled like 20 times. That is, in 20 games he bowled the 19th over at an economy rate of 6.6. That's quite good given the context of the game, because 19th over is supposed to be the time when the power hitters get going and try to actually score a lot of runs. So that's interesting fact from this data table. Okay, so this presents the wickets per over among the away teams. Interesting thing is, like, if you see Harshal Patel has an economy of 4.7 in 9th over. That is very good. And Shane Watson, when he used to bowl for Rajasthan Royals, has an economy of 2.0. That is quite well in power play. All right. Saranga has done well. I mean, he has bowled only in 2 games, but in both the games he has done well by taking 3 wickets and with an economy rate of 2.5. All right, I'm going to actually move on to the next chart, which is bowling economy versus wickets. So as bowlers, the individual dots represent each bowling performance. So as bowlers start taking wickets, like 1 wicket, 2 wicket, 3 and 4 and 5, obviously the bowling economy rate would come down, because that is what we expect, right? Initially, if a bowler is not taking wickets, they might actually go for runs, and that's why the economy rate is on the higher side, but then when they start picking up wickets, it means they are bowling good. So the economy will come down, and the trend is the same among the visiting teams versus Mumbai Indians. But there is a slight difference towards like when Mumbai Indian bowlers starts picking up 4 wickets or more, which are like would be very rare cases, I would say. I mean, it has happened because that's what the dots represent, but it won't be like in it happens like in every game. But certainly it happened. But whenever it happens, like Mumbai Indians bowlers tend to do slightly better among the other bowlers. But I think in cricketing terms, any bowler who is like taking 4 wickets and more in a 2020 game obviously will have a good economy rate. That's what it means. Okay, so now we have come towards the this end of the report. We're going to actually look at individual batting innings for all the teams that have played here in Wankhede. So first we look at Mumbai Indians. Obviously, they have played more games because it's the home ground for them. I've repeated that many times now. So if you look at the games that they are winning, so there is a consistent pattern emerges here. Like they are doing better. Obviously, they have done better in the power play in most of the games, and as we expect, like post power play, things cool off. The scoring rate comes down, and then kind of like they steadily pick up from over number 9 to all the way to 15. So they've done well here, and then tried accelerating. And quite interestingly, the scoring rate has come down in 20th over in both batting first and while chasing also. But then they consistently maintained a good scoring rate in the middle overs. So that is what the difference between Mumbai Indians winning a game and losing. That I could clearly see from this data. And if you look at it, like the games that they won batting first and here, like all the games, individual line is basically the game, one game, right? So if you look at it, 7th over, they tend to actually have a lower run rate, right? All the games converge here, and then from here it's kind of like the trend has been like a flat one. Like if I had actually plotted a trend, in some games I've done well here, and then the rate has come down. Similarly here in power play, that is the games that they have lost while chasing, apparently they've not done well in power play as opposed to the games that they won here. They tried to actually here in some of the games, it's apparent that they tried to actually accelerate the innings, but then towards the end maybe they lost wickets and the scoring has drastically come down. All right, let's move on to Gujarat Titans, who have like only played 4 games and they won 3. All I could say is like towards the end they tried playing well, and so does in power play. The 1 games that they lost, obviously they batted first. They didn't do relatively well in the power play as compared to the games that they won chasing, right? And they are yet to play a game and win like by batting first. All right, Rajasthan Royals. The interesting thing is here, like batting first, they lost it. They seem to be losing the plot in terms of like scoring in 16th and 17th over, and then they are trying to actually accelerate. But it would be interesting to see, like in these games, what has happened consistently in all the games. Like they were scoring well here, relatively well, and then except this one game. So here in 16th and 17th, things are happening where they are like drastically coming down on the scoring rate and then trying to accelerate. Whereas here, if you see, That's not the case. Like they've done well in 16th and 17th over. So that's one key difference that I could see, apart from like the power play performance. Um, yeah, here also there is actually a cluster where they were just kind of like going flat, and that's not the key difference here, but that's just a pattern that we observe here, and see if that. I mean, we can do further deep dive on these games and try to see like what has happened in this, like during this duration, um, and the games that they have won chasing, um, like we can see clear spikes, and then it's kind of like going ups and downs, and like if they had like a few overs, quiet overs, they were making up by scoring, and then the scoring rate is coming down, so they eventually they're able to actually win it. All right, so this is RCB and games batting first, and which they won. If you look at it, the interesting fact is almost all the games they've done better after the power play. That is quite interesting. Um, from games, I'm sorry, from over 6 to 10, if you look at it here, while batting first, they've done better than the power play. So maybe slow and steady start in the power play, and then they explode here. And in some games, like probably in most of the games, the scoring rate slows down a bit, and then it again takes off to a greater level. That is an interesting observation here. Here, that's the difference here. Like they tend to actually score or tend to actually accelerate in the power play, and then probably they're losing the wickets, and then it's really like it takes time for them to recover and then score. Probably that's a key difference between winning batting first and losing. While chasing, I think it's the other way. If you look at this chart and this chart, while chasing, they tend to actually score higher in the initial overs, and then it drastically comes down in all the games. Like and by the fifth over mark in power play, to all the way to eighth over, it's kind of like declining, and then they try to catch up on some of the games, then it declining again. So they never basically catch up on the run rate. Maybe they're losing too many wickets. And while chasing, that is batting second, winning, it is also the trend that they're scoring better in power play, but then they try to actually minimize that reduction in the scoring rate. Like if you compare this one and this one, they try to actually maintain that run rate and then go on to actually win it. And you could actually clearly see between these two charts where the trend is like try to actually catch up on the run rate and all the way till the end of the game. Okay, so we have LSG, 4 games they've played. The game that they've lost, something has happened. Like they've not able to actually do well in the first half of the game up to, all the way to like 10th over, and then they've started doing better. So that's apparently did not help. Whereas here they try to actually do better in power play. Then there is a dip towards like end of the power play, and then they were actually doing better. So they were able to win it. While batting second, in this particular game, they were not able to actually do better and up until like 15th over, and probably that's not good enough to win the game. And their interesting fact is like LSG is set to bat second and win it. Okay, Chennai Super Kings, who have less than 50% win rate, yet they've actually played more games. Let's try to see if we have a pattern here between the games that they won and lost. So obviously they won more games chasing rather than playing first. Apparently they won only 3 games batting first. So I think what I could actually draw here is basically post power play in this over, like over from 6th to 10th, apparently not doing well, as if we compare the games that they're winning, both batting first and second. And they were kind of like doing okay here, but apparently there is I mean they have not won it, so there's no clear kind of like a pattern, because it's quite obvious, right? They have, they might be like close games. As we all know, there are a couple of close games, and I would say more than couple. There are quite a lot of close games for CSK in Wankhede, and that's why we don't see like clear pattern emerging. But we can clearly see while chasing the trend. If I draw a trend line, it kind of like the innings, the scoring rate kind of like goes up most of the time, and that made the difference. And here there is an interesting pattern here. Like while chasing, they most of the time they tend to actually not do well, like between over number 11 to like all the way to 14, and then they try to actually accelerate. That's what the data says here basically. And they were doing better here, and then maybe they're losing wickets. So from over number 11 to 14 is the period where they're scoring less, and then they're trying to actually make up, but that's not good enough at the end. Okay, Punjab Kings have lost more games batting first. And I don't know whether they were put into bat first. That means that they lost the toss and they were put into bat first, because that should have been the case most of the time, because we have seen that 70% of the time team winning the toss bowls first. So even though they've been like doing okay at times, it's still not good enough to win the game. But if you look at the 2 games that they've won batting first, they've done like a slow and steady start in the power play overs, and then the run rate kind of like never comes down. It kind of like keeps going up, as opposed to here, which kind of varies a lot. All right. While chasing, again, they've lost few games while chasing, and the run rate or the scoring rate has been kind of like flat throughout. Like if you draw a pattern here, or a trend line, that one game that they won chasing, it's the same, except that they were able to actually catch up here, and apparently it's a short game, and they were able to actually win it in 16th over. So maybe a slow scoring game. That's something that we can do a deep dive and find out. Okay, Delhi Capitals, they won. They've done better chasing. Only one game they won batting first, and while batting first or chasing, especially while batting first, they tend to actually do better. Like the scoring rate increases during power play, and then they kind of like lose the plot like around 5th over, and then like kind of comes down, and then it never catches up, except like these 2 games. And even if it catches up, it again comes down. So that's not good enough. But here, in the one game that they won, if you look at it, the scoring rate actually keeps going. And also there's not clear pattern here, but except here, if you look at it, interesting thing is like 7th over while chasing, always the scoring rate comes down when they actually transition from power play to these overs, middle overs here, and then from there they kind of like tend to catch up, except that one game where they the scoring rate drastically came down, but then they were able to make up. And the other interesting fact here is here, after 16th over, they have consistently done better to win the games. Whereas here, even though in most of the games they've done better, there is again a dip in 18th over, and then here also the like in 8th over, the rate has come down, and then they tried to actually pick up, and then again they were hit by low scoring rate. Okay, Sunrisers Hyderabad. They have again batted first for most of many games, and then lost. So we've not done well comparatively in power play overs, whereas here the power play overs have done slightly better, and here also, and their scoring rate has been kind of like inconsistent, I would say. Like in one game that they won, they've done exceptionally well in power play, and then the rate has come down. And it was like a flat, and then it just went up like that. So we couldn't, basically from these graphs, we couldn't like conclude or point out a style of play or a trend of play, except that while chasing, except that one game, they tend to actually not to score well towards the death over. Like if you see here, even though the games that they've lost, they try to actually score at a higher rate than the games that they were chasing. Maybe they are losing early wickets here, end up like not accelerating at the end. Okay, the last one is Kolkata Knight Riders. They've also actually lost many games batting first. They've only won one game batting first. They tend to actually start kind of okay in power play, tend to actually lose wickets and try to catch up, and the rate has been just like one flat trend. And while chasing, they've had like a couple of good performances in the second half of the innings and towards the end. And obviously they had slightly better power play performance as opposed to the other games that they've lost. All right, that's all I have for this video. That's the end. Thank you for watching this. I appreciate it. I'll come up with another video at a later point. Until then, thank you.